Hello, everyone. I know it's been a while since I've uploaded. I have been playing the Pikmin games quite a bit. A lot of replaying, a lot of finding new things out. And so, with all of that, I have formed some new opinions. And so, I figured with those new opinions, and also with the old tier list, I hadn't played Pikmin 4, and I have. And definitely have thoughts about it. Um, and so, without further ado, I'm going to make a new 2024 tier list. And there have been definitely a decent amount of change from the old one. So, yeah, let's get right into it. All right, I'm going to start with Red Pikmin from Pikmin 1. Um, right away, just put them in B tier. Now, again, my opinions have changed. I actually think of all three Pikmin types, now, I think that Red Pikmin and Pikmin 1 are actually probably the weakest ones overall. Not in terms of obviously damage output, but in terms of just usefulness. Maybe if fire as a hazard appeared more, but as it stands in the current game, there's a lot of water. There are a lot of walls that you're going to need to blow up with bomb rocks, but there's not that many fire hazards. And, even for some of the fire hazards, like, obviously the fire geysers, with proper timing, you can actually get your Pikmin to walk around them. And so, theoretically, you can actually play way too much of the game without red Pikmin as soon as you get the yellows and the blues. So, they're definitely not bad. But I actually would definitely argue that of all the Pikmin in Pikmin 1, I personally think that red Pikmin are by far the weakest. So yeah. All right, and that gets into yellow Pikmin. I definitely think they are better than red Pikmin. Well, yellow Pikmin, the reason why they're not higher is because their usefulness is kind of limited. They have the high throw, which is definitely useful, and they're the only ones that can pick up bomb rocks. So again, pretty useful. But that's pretty much it. Um, those are two traits that are always going to be useful, but yellows in this game don't have that edge that would push them further up in the tier compared to other Pikmin from other Pikmin games. So, all right, next up are blue Pikmin, and I actually think that blue Pikmin are the best ones in Pikmin One. Upon replay, I was shocked, honestly, at how useful the blue Pikmin were compared to how I remembered them. Um, very, very useful. So the thing about Pikmin 1 is obviously you've got like fire and enemies and water. Water as a hazard is just. Well, it's pretty bad in Pikmin 1. It gets better in the later installments, but water it's actually extremely difficult to get your Pikmin out of the water, especially consistently. Um, and enemies will throw your Pikmin in the water, so it's also incredibly easy for them to find themselves in that situation. Not to mention all the water exclusive enemies. If they drag your Pikmin in the water, I mean, it's almost like game over. So, being able to traverse on land or sea is a really big deal. Um, you know what? I'm actually kind of tempted to put uh, blue Pikmin from 1 at the bottom of A. I think I'm going to do that actually, because I do think there is actually a little bit of a gap between reds, yellows, and blues. It makes sense why you find blues last. Um, I think what gives them the edge is on top of being able to traverse land and water, being able to lifeguard Pikmin is also a really big deal. You know, the worse a hazard is, the bigger of a deal it is when you're immune to it, or if you, in this case, can help others escape that situation. So, blue Pikmin being able to rescue other Pikmin from water, which itself is a horrible hazard, is really to me what bumps them up to A. Whereas in Pikmin 2, water isn't as big of a threat, and therefore them being able to lifeguard, while good, isn't as useful as an ability. Although again, it is still good. Um, so yeah, I would, and also there are certain areas in Pikmin 1 where there's so much water. That's another thing. It'd be one thing if Pikmin 1 didn't have that much water, but there's so much water in Pikmin 1. So, to me, it only feels right that I put them at the bottom of A tier, which again, I know this is a controversial pick. For most people, it's the opposite. Most people think reds are the best. I used to think reds were the best if I don't misremember, but I've had a pretty big change of heart upon my last playthrough. Honestly, once I got blues, I basically barely ever used reds unless I had to for a fire hazard. Um, so yeah, I think I'm gonna make a video on Pikmin balance, how the balance of each game is. Um, and I'll talk more about reds and blues and whatnot, but I'll leave it at that. All right, now I'm gonna move on to reds from Pikmin 2. All right, I'm gonna put reds in Pikmin 2. Again, this is another hot take. Surprisingly, they'll also go more towards the bottom of A tier, as you see as I fill out the tier list. So I think red Pikmin are super underrated. Um, Obviously everybody fixates on purples, and I'll get to them in a second. You know, um, but honestly, the thing about reds that no one really talks about is, essentially they're just a less polarizing version of purples. They've got the speed of regular Pikmin, they've got the throw height of regular Pikmin, while also dealing extra damage and having that fire immunity. I mean, there's just no getting around it. That fire immunity is useful, especially against the fiery bulborb. I mean, it's just useful. So I think they're overshadowed by purples, but again, they're really just a less polarized and more balanced version of the purples, essentially. Um, and personally, that appeals to me a little bit more, right? Because I might use purples for combat specifically, but Pikmin isn't just combat. There's also exploration. I want reds because of their fire immunity when I'm exploring. There is treasure hunting. Again, I'm going to want the reds because on top of their speed when it comes to carrying the treasure, they also deal more damage in case an enemy interrupts me while I'm collecting that treasure. So, yeah, I would definitely say bottom of A tier. Which is, again, I'm sure it's a hot take, but yeah, I'm kind of famous for them. So, all right, next up is yellow Pikmin. This opinion hasn't really changed very much, honestly. If anything, my last playthrough kind of cemented it more so. Yellow Pikmin and Pikmin 2 are the best Pikmin type, I would say. Again, electricity, insta kill. It will kill so many Pikmin so fast. It is insane. They have the high throw, which is also incredibly useful. Um, yeah, it really just boils down to how good electricity is, and the fact that they're just utterly immune to it. But again, having the high throw also really helps too. Um, I feel like there might have been another advantage they had that I mentioned in the previous video that I'm forgetting. But again, just the immunity to electricity alone is good enough to get into A, and the high jump is enough to just get them into S tier. So, all right, next up is blue Pikmin. I would put blue Pikmin. I think I'm going to sandwich them actually right in between yellows and reds from Pikmin 1. They definitely have their place, and they definitely have their use, for sure. Obviously, they're the only Pikmin that can go into water. Again, it's not as useful because water as a hazard got nerfed in Pikmin 2. There isn't as much water, at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong about that. And it's easier to call your Pikmin out of the water. So all of those nerfs, to me personally, kind of push them again a tier lower, but they're still in B tier. They're not B tier's not bad. You're not really bad until you get into C tier or D tier. Like these Pikmin are good. They're just not great or borderline arguably broken. So yeah, this is definitely I do think that the weakest Pikmin is probably blues in Pikmin 2. Um but again, they still have their uses. So all right, purple Pikmin from Pikmin 2. Oh boy, where do I want to put you guys? You know what? I'm gonna be generous. I'm gonna put you guys in A tier. I'm gonna put you above blues. Oh, actually, that reminds me of one more thing, but I'll speak of that when I get into purple Pikmin. No, I'll put them right here actually. I personally don't think they're quite as good as red Pikmin, and there's a very specific reason why I'm going to get into. Right, so but before I get into that, so purple Pikmin obviously, they have the strength of 10 Pikmin, which is useful when your Pikmin numbers are low. Um, they have a thump effect that could paralyze enemies. The rate of how much it'll paralyze enemy kind of varies enemy to enemy. Um, they're immune to wind, if I'm not mistaken, and immune to those mid-type enemies or whatever that scare off your Pikmin. Um, all of that's useful. Also, they think the damage they deal is 2 times strength, right? So the highest damage in the game for Pikmin 2. However, there are some downsides. Purple Pikmin are the slowest Pikmin in the game. If I am not mistaken, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Purple Pikmin, because they're bigger, have a bigger hitbox, which means that they're more prone to getting eaten and snagged off by enemies. Um, so yeah, they're easier to hit. They're slow. They have no elemental immunity. I feel like there's actually a couple more things I might be forgetting. But essentially, the purple Pikmin in a nutshell. They are good at combat. They are not good exploring because of how slow they are. And they are not good at treasure hunting because, again, of how slow they are, right? Their lack of speed and mobility. Also, yeah, I forgot. They have the thump effect, but if I'm not mistaken, they have the worst throw in the game. That's why the thump is there to compensate. So, again, in terms of treasure hunting, you want to throw your Pikmin to a certain. Actually, I'm even remembering in my Pikmin 2 playthrough, there was a specific treasure I wanted to get. And I tried to cheese it and throw my purples up there, and they wouldn't go. And I got some reds, and I was able to manage it. Um, so they've got their pros and they have their cons. People want to fixate on the pros and not talk about the cons. But really, this is a polarizing Pikmin that is really good at combat, but is pretty lackluster in pretty much every other area. Um, so for combat, sure, you want the purples. But when it comes to exploration, they're too slow. And when it comes to treasure hunting, again, that lack of speed is going to really hold you back. I just remembered something though. I don't want to get too distracted. It's a little bit off of a tangent, but one of the biggest nerfs to Pikmin or Purple Pikmin and Pikmin 2 is actually the sprays. There's the ultra bitter and the ultra spicy spray. So obviously the thump paralyzes enemies. But who needs the thump? Because I actually recently I've done a couple of no purple runs. I'm actually thinking of doing a no yellow run. But yeah, my most recent no purple run, I just had an epiphany where it's like, wait a minute, I can just, and the game will give you ultra bitter spray too. I can just get ultra bitter spray, and that has the same effect as thump where the enemy's paralyzed, but longer actually. Um, and in terms of their extra damage, that's what the ultra spicy. So you can literally you can replicate the benefits of the purple Pikmin without actually having to have a purple Pikmin. You can spray paralyze, which replicates their thump paralyze effect, and you can use ultra spicy to get that extra damage. Actually, you know what? They're gonna go in A tier, but no, I just talked myself into lowering them. Like the sprays, the ultra sprays, they really actually nerf like that's what made my purple Pikmin run so easy. Is I would just get the sprays, and honestly, I've done runs where I didn't even do that. I get the sprays, and the sprays alone pretty much invalidate the purple Pikmin. Right? So you can just get a bunch of ultra spicy and ultra bitter sprays, get your other 4 types of Pikmin, and you genuinely do not need purples. Yeah. Yeah, I just talked myself into lowering them even more. I'm not going to put them into B tier. I feel like, at least right now, I'm feeling it's a little bit unfair. I guess there's an argument for them being top of B tier, to be honest. But I'm, for now, going to keep them at the bottom of A tier. I think I've done a mid job at at trying to convince you that purple Pikmin are overrated. I've been thinking of making an entire video around it, truth be told. But I'm going to move on to white Pikmin. And I'm going to put white Pikmin from Pikmin 2 in S tier. Right? So, yeah, What they're just so good. They're so good. It's actually crazy to me how nobody talks about them. There was literally a dungeon where there are those caterpillars. I forget what they're called. Like the armored cannon beetle larva or something. And obviously they're shooting their boulders or whatever. And I got like 20 white Pikmin and had to pick up a treasure. And I was like, I wonder if they're so fast. I wonder if I can just cheese this section. And I did. The white Pikmin were so fast. They literally got the treasure and ran past all three armored cannon beetle larvae and carried the treasure, to Olimar's ship. That's how fast they are. Like they're so even white Pikmin who have leaves, they're so fast. Like their speed alone is enough to put them in A tier, but it gets better than that somehow. Um, on top of that, they are immune to poison, which is very useful. Um, they also have X-ray vision, so they can find hidden treasure, which again is really broken. There's treasure only they can find, which again is really, really good because of their X-ray vision. Um, on top of that, what was that last thing I was going to say that they have that's also really broken? Oh, I remember when a single white Pikmin gets eaten by a full-grown Bulborb, it dies in this game. They are highly poisonous. So, I mean, I think I've made a pretty convincing case as to why white Pikmin are S tier. This Pikmin is so good. I don't see why people don't talk about it. Whenever I'm in a dungeon and I see a white Pikmin flower, I forget what they're called, the candy pot bud. Whenever I see one, it's white, I immediately jump towards it because I want more white Pikmin. I want an entire flock of white Pikmin. Seriously, they're so good. Definitely S tier. And frankly, the only reason why they're not better than yellow Pikmin is because of how broken electricity is. Along with, again, how useful the high throw is. So, yeah. Alright, this one's going to be tricky. The Bulbmen. Where am I going to put Bulbmen? I think I'm actually going to put Bulbmen in A tier, but under Purple Pikmin. Bulbmen are pretty interesting. They're immune to all hazards, if I'm not mistaken, but they deal half damage. And you can't take them out of dungeons either. Also, if your squad's obviously already full, then you won't be able to run into any of them. So, yeah, the being immune to all elements is really good, right? But again, that half damage is pretty bad. And the fact that you can't take them with you is even worse. Now, if you could take Bulbmen with you, they'd probably go like right here. But you can't. So they go right here. Alright, next up is Red Pikmin. From Pikmin 3. I would put Red Pikmin... Yeah, probably like right here. Again, they haven't really changed very much. I think maybe their dig speed increased. I'm not sure. Same as before. Now, Purple Pikmin are not in story mode. And actually, unfortunately, as we'll get to in a second, and they butchered Purple Pikmin. That's something that the entire fan base can agree on. But yeah, so no one really outshines them as far as damage output is concerned. So, they're good, but again, there's nothing quite good enough to put them in A tier. Next up is Yellow Pikmin. Electricity is nerfed in Pikmin 3. It's not as good as it was before. So there's that. But they're really quick diggers. They still are immune to electricity. And they gain a flower when they help with electrical puzzles, which is also really useful. Along with their high throw. So, personally, I would put them at the bottom of A tier, right under the Light Bulbman. So, I don't know why I said that Light Bulbman. All right, but yeah, there's not much more to say about them. Blue Pikmin from Pikmin 3. This, this is a pretty unfortunate case. There really aren't that many water sections that you really need to traverse through in Pikmin 3. And also, they got rid of the whole lifeguard ability. I think we have our first C tier, actually. Yeah, they're an unfortunate case, but unfortunately, they're not the only unfortunate case. All right, now there's Rock Pikmin. They're immune to bludgeoning damage, getting stepped on and whatnot, which is really useful. They're the only ones that can break the glass and crystal obstacles. They have if I'm not mistaken, they have a faster carrying speed. I think it's because I think there was an interview and something like because they're stronger. You can look it up on the wiki or whatever, and I've checked it myself in gameplay. But not white Pikmin. I mean they are, but rock Pikmin are. This is unscripted. Can you tell? But rock Pikmin are faster, a little bit faster than the other Pikmin. So with all of their immunity, and you would think they'd sink to the bottom of water or something, but luckily they don't. So, actually, you know what? I'm gonna put them. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna put Rock Pikmin above Yellows from Pikmin 3, but below Bulbmin from Pikmin 2. Because they are actually, in my opinion, pretty good. Really, their only true con is they can't latch on to enemies. Obviously they're not fire resistant, but fire got nerfed. It's not quite as dangerous of a hazard. Electricity got nerfed. Water got nerfed. It's easier to rescue drowning Pikmin. So pretty much all the elemental immunities got nerfed, which is really beneficial for rock Pikmin. So, yeah. And I also want to say this, too. I don't think there's that big of a difference in strength between purples and rocks. Like, of course, purples are stronger, of course. Like, no doubt. They're better, for sure. But, to me, rock Pikmin and Pikmin 3, they're not too far off from how good purple Pikmin are in Pikmin 2. Just wanted to mention that. Alright, let's get this over with. Wing Pikmin from Pikmin 3. Yeah, they're really good. They fly places they shouldn't fly and get treasure they shouldn't be able to get. Now, they're not, I don't know if I call them truly broken because they deal half damage, and sometimes their AI can get wonky with their pathfinding. But still, they are undeniably really good, the best Pikmin in Pikmin 3, and definitely S tier. Oh, forgot to mention, this needs to be mentioned. Because they fly when they carry objects, enemies who like to snag your Pikmin and eat them, on the ground, have a harder time getting to wing Pikmin. So they're also safer when carrying objects. Not to mention they can fly over and take quicker paths. So all that needs to be mentioned. Alright, this one actually gets me sad. This is, it's a tragedy. I need to drink some water for this one. I mean that, actually. Alright, I think this is the only Pikmin that's going to go in D tier. I cannot emphasize how bad purple Pikmin and Pikmin 3 are. It is absurd. I mean, look at it. They they nerfed purple Pikmin to the ground. It's quite sad, honestly. Alright, where to start? I mean, they're not in story mode, which isn't really a nerf. I don't remember if they got a damage reduction. But the real tragedy is, obviously they have the lowest throw. They no longer stun enemies. But they still have the worst throw. Half the time, maybe even 2/3 of the time, when I throw purple Pikmin at enemies, they don't latch on. Instead, they go halfway, they thump on the ground, and then they start attacking the enemy. So if I throw them at a Bulborb's back, they won't latch on half the time. Instead, they fall, and then they, I mean, basically in Pikmin 3, the only thing they're really good for. In fact, I don't think they're immune to wind either anymore. The only thing they're really good for in Pikmin 3 is they're the Pikmin who carries the heavy stuff. That's like the only thing they have. Which, unless you're low on Pikmin, doesn't matter. Because 10 other Pikmin will carry that stuff faster than one purple will. So, unless you're short in Pikmin, that won't matter either. I mean, this Pikmin got nerfed to the ground. It pretty bad. Pretty bad. The only truly bad Pikmin, in my opinion, is purple Pikmin from Pikmin 3. I don't know what they were. Well, no, I know what they were thinking. Fans were complaining about purple Pikmin from Pikmin 2. And they got wind of it, and they're like, all right, well, we're going to tone it down, guys. This is their version of toning it down. I mean, look at that. It's really bad. All right, I need to change the subject. All right, white Pikmin from Pikmin 3. Unsurprisingly, also got nerfed. But they're still really quick. They're still really quick. They're still poisonous when consumed. There's not really a poison hazard, so that, I mean, it doesn't really pop up very often. If I'm not mistaken, I think that they deal half damage in this game. I believe so. I could be wrong. Obviously, this is kind of impromptu, but yeah, I think they deal half damage. All right, so assuming that all that, I would put them probably right here. Actually, now I personally would give them the slight edge over the reds. Slight edge. That speed is really useful, along with, when enemies eat you, damaging them. All that's very useful. Makes them very good at exploration and very good at treasure collecting. They just aren't good at combat. But then if enough of them get eaten, then it won't matter. So, yeah, I'd put them right there. Even, unlike purple Pikmin, they were nerfed. But even while being nerfed pretty heavily, not too bad. All right, now we get into Pikmin 4. All right, so first off, red Pikmin. I would put red Pikmin right here, actually. Obviously, they added the fire pine cones, which is a hazard that pretty much only reds can deal with. So, of course, that makes them more useful. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much the one thing that propels them upwards. All right, next up is yellow Pikmin. Obviously, electricity was made a little bit more dangerous, which definitely helps their case. Maybe this is just me. I feel like yellow Pikmin aren't thrown as high as they used to be thrown. I feel like they nerfed the throw range, which is unfortunate. They're still really good diggers, if I remember correctly, from Pikmin 3. Honestly, to me, these two are about the same. I wouldn't say either is significantly better. I feel like I will give the edge to yellows, this is a very slight edge. Only because of the high throw, which is, while nerfed, still useful. Alright, blue Pikmin. Yeah, there aren't that many water sections in Pikmin 4. Kind of like Pikmin 3. Yeah, there just aren't that many. It's unfortunate. I do feel like the AI is a little bit sharper for blue Pikmin and Pikmin 4, personally. I would give them the edge in that respect. And there's more water in 4, I believe. Actually, no, there's more water areas that you need to explore that are, mandatory than there are in Pikmin 3. So I would give them a slight edge, but they're still not good. Alright, this one's going to be interesting. Purple Pikmin from Pikmin 4. Am I going to put him here? Or am I going to put him here? Neither of them. Yeah, this one's a tough one because, they're clearly not as good as they were in Pikmin 2. But they're definitely better than they were in Pikmin 3. Ochi kind of also somewhat invalidates them. I think I'm going to put them... Yeah, I think I'm going to put them right here. They're not quite as good as they were in 2. But I mean, they're still good. They're still useful. But again, there were some definite nerfs, but the nerfs weren't definite enough to keep them out of A tier. So I think this is a pretty fair place to put them. Um, like essentially, they're just a slightly worse version of Pikmin 2's Pikmin. I would put the Boltman over them, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, there's actually surprisingly not much to say there. All right, white Pikmin are a pretty interesting case because, if I'm not mistaken, their poison got buffed. I don't remember if it's as good as it was in Pikmin 2, but their poison got buffed. They are faster. They're still fast. I don't know if they're faster than they were in Pikmin 2. I think they might be slower, actually. Not sure if they're faster. Same thing compared to 3. They're still fast, though. Poison as a hazard is much more frequent. Unfortunately, Ochi can deal with pretty much, like, for me in my playthrough, Ochi, he was the poison guy. That was his old shtick. So, which actually is another issue I forgot to mention with, with Blue Pikmin from Pikmin 4. Ochi kind of semi-invalidates them. It's kind of a running problem with Pikmin 4. Alright, so where am I going to put white Pikmin? Yeah, I think right here's a good spot. Somewhere in B. Again, they're not bad or they're not even okay. They're good. They have their uses, but yeah, just Ochi and also them dealing. I know for a fact they deal half damage in Pikmin 4. And it's just unfortunate. All right, Rock Pikmin. Rock Pikmin, they kind of made some changes to their damage output. They also nerfed their crushing thing, which is pretty unfortunate. They're definitely not as good as they were in 3. I actually don't even think they're good enough to go in A tier altogether. Hmm. I think I'm going to put them at the top of B tier because they still do have their uses. But again, there was a clear nerf between 3 and 4. Oh no, here's another really bad one. All right, Wing Pikmin from Pikmin 4. Again, just nerf, very pretty much this, but for Pikmin 4, nerf to the ground. I would put them at the. I would put Wing Pikmin from Pikmin 4 at the top of C tier. Like their AI AI and pathfinding is really bad. Um, like laughably bad at times. Obviously, they can fly over enemies, and they can take routes other Pikmin can't take. That's pretty much their only strength in this game. I mean, for a lot of aerial enemies, you can just use yellow Pikmin. So it's unfortunate, but they pretty again. It's the same thing. Like as far as the biggest nerfs in the series, that's what these two had. Like you'll notice, Wing Pikmin from Theor and S, and then they're what 1, 2, 3 tiers lower in C, right? And same thing, Purple Pikmin are A, and then they're 3 tiers lower in D. These two both got nerfed in pretty similar manners, pretty hard, unfortunately. So yeah, man, look at all the B tiers I have and all the A tiers. Looks like S tier is kind of lonely. If only there was somebody else to join them. If only there was somebody else to join them. Well, there is. And their name is Ice Pikmin. And they are so laughably broken. Honestly. Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. They're they're so laughably broken. I don't know. I mean, so with Pikmin 2 for yellow Pikmin, electricity is broken. So yellow Pikmin are kind of de facto in their own sense broken between that and the high jump. Um, Ice Pikmin, on the other hand, man, where do I start? They float over the water, so they're unlikely to drown. Like, they literally will float and just follow the player. They can freeze bodies of water, which gives them extra mobility, which also partially invalidates these guys, by the way. Ochi has no ice abilities, so they're one of the few Pikmin that Ochi does not invalidate, which is pretty huge. When they grab onto enemies, they will freeze the enemy, which is, again, like the Ultra Bitter effect. So, kind of like the stun from Purple Pikmin, but better. And, like, if they're eaten, they also freeze the enemy. You get their onion really early in the game. I mean, actually, maybe I'm misremembering that. I hope I'm misremembering that. Or maybe relatively. I think like early, midish game. Regardless of that last fact, though, yeah, they're the only cons they have is their damage output is below average, and they die a little bit faster to fire. And I do mean a little bit faster. You should be able to save them. I didn't lose a single ice Pikmin to any fire hazards, and I really messed around. I still didn't lose a single one to fire hazard. They again a little bit faster. This Pikmin, honestly, every time I tried to not use ice Pikmin too much, because every time I used ice Pikmin, I felt guilty. I felt like I was cheesing the game. The game's like, hey, I want you to have fun. I want to put a challenge that you can overcome and feel good about yourself. And then Ice Pikmin come along and are like, oh, I'm just going to freeze this problem, and you can just walk right over it. It's just, what were they thinking? It's funny because in the comment section for my last Pikmin tier list, people were telling me in the comment section, like, oh, what do you think of Ice Pikmin? And I thought to myself, well, I haven't played the game yet, and hopefully people are exaggerating and this, that, and the other. Yeah, no, they weren't. Ice Pikmin are, woo, man. The second best, I would actually say, even though I think yellow Pikmin are better, there is an argument that ice Pikmin are the best ones in the series. Straight up. They're just so good. Alright, next up is Glow Pikmin. Alright, Glow Pikmin, obviously you get the glow seeds from the night missions, so they're limited quantity. Sort of like Purples and Pikmin 2, but more so. Immune to all hazards, if I'm not mistaken. They can do that whole, they gather and form this giant energy orb and paralyze enemies, which is kind of like the freeze effect from Ice Pikmin. But again, they're kind of hard to obtain. Oh, and they can also only be used in caves, which is a big one. I put them right here. I definitely think they're better than Pikmin 2's Purple Pikmin. But again, they're designed to be a really good Pikmin that you can only use in certain situations. Which is actually vaguely similar to Purple Pikmin, how they're really good at combat, but exploration, treasure hunting, they're not so good at. Kind of a running theme with these two, right? You can only use these guys in caves, you know. You can only get so many of the glow seeds, right? So, yeah, this is my Pikmin 2 tier list. We only have one Pikmin in D tier, but man, are they bad. Oh, man. Man, are they bad. We have 4 S tiers. We've got 8 A tiers. Unless I can't count, which I can't. We've got 9 B tiers. As far as the overall balance for Pikmin types for the games, especially looking at this, I'd say the balance for the series is pretty. When you only have 4 characters in the lower tiers, or 4 types in the lower tiers, I should say. I mean, it's not so bad. That's not so bad. So I would say that the series balance overall, just looking at this, in my opinion at least, is fairly good. Fairly good. Not too many broken characters or types, you know. In each game, other than Pikmin 2, each game only has one broken type, except for Pikmin 1. The closest to the broken type in 1 is blue Pikmin, but they're not broken. So, I mean, yeah. Alright, I am going to wrap up the video. I've been meaning to make more videos. I've just been very busy with life. If you haven't seen the trailer, maybe you shouldn't watch the trailer. It's not very good, let's be honest. But I am working on a game that is a mix of D&D and Avatar The Last Airbender with like a splash of Pokemon. It is called The Heir of the Elementals. If you are a fan of like D&D or Avatar, or just, tabletop role-playing games where you sit down and roll the dice with your friends and goof off, if it's something that you're interested in, then keep an eye on it. I'll definitely be mentioning it more in the future, especially as the game is nearing completion. So, yeah, keep an eye out for that. If you have any questions about the tier list, or if you have any questions about the game I'm working on, it's called The Heir of the Elementals. I call it Teote, as to shorten it. But if you have any questions about either of them, just leave them in the comment section. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. Hopefully soon I will get to making more content for you guys as my schedule hopefully frees up. It's been a very, very busy and frankly quite hectic and tragic year for me. But hey, still here, still working on the game and still trying to put out some content for you guys. So yeah. All right, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Hope you're having a great day and a great life. Bye-bye. Man, my computer freezes at the worst times.